Sometimes we're not ourselves. There's no one I can turn to. And I know all the feelings that we shared are in the past. And I know your relationships are never meant to last. And I'll take some time, but I'll be alright. We're moving on. We're moving on. I know times are tough, but I've had enough. We're moving on. We're moving on. We're moving on. Sometimes there's no one else who loves me like you used to. Sometimes we're not ourselves. There's no one I can turn to. And I'll take some time, but I'll be alright. We're moving on. We're moving on. I know times are tough, but I've had enough. We're moving on. We're moving on. We're moving on.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. You guys are early today, and it's probably because you already know who my special guest is. Good morning, Tanisha. So good to see you. Good morning, Dee. Good morning, Mom, Nora, Christina, Cynthia, Trina. You guys, welcome, welcome, welcome. I see you guys are on early today. You know, it's interesting. We haven't done Today in History for a while. Good morning, Nita. Good morning, Joyce Jackson. Thank you for tuning in. We haven't done Today in History for a while, but we are going to do it today because today actually marks the anniversary of a memorial service that was held. Hey, Jennifer, welcome. For someone we all know. Do you guys remember what happened in 2009? Do you guys remember? We memorialized in 2009 on today, which happens to be July 7th, was the memorial for Michael Jackson. If you guys remember that, it was all the news for the entire week. So here we are now at July 7th of 2021, and we are on episode 17, y'all, of Unfiltered with BC Wright. And I want to thank you all for showing up and showing out. Please tag someone and invite someone, because we're talking about a subject today that made me absolutely livid. And when I say livid, livid. So if anyone, thank you, Dee. If anyone has been paying any attention, have y'all been seeing all these billboards that are all over the place talking about nut milk is not milk? Have you seen the ad campaigns from the dairy producers who are really going after almond milk and going after soy milk and going after all these different things? And it made me start thinking, well, what is the big deal about it, right? So I started reading about it, and the Food and Drug Administration, kind of agrees, but they haven't passed the law yet saying you can't call it milk. But the funniest thing I saw was they were like, nuts don't have nipples, so you can't call it milk. Why is this such a big deal, Food and Drug Administration? So one of the things that I did, and I'm prefacing this so I can bring my special guests on to talk about several different things today. But one of the things that I did was I wanted to know more, like, what is the big deal? Because y'all know at the end of everything, money is involved, right? So I wanted to know more. So I started looking into it, and I wanted to know, what is the FDA's mission? What is it that they do? Are they supposed to be here to protect us? Why are they involved in this conversation? So I started looking, and the FDA's mission is supposed to be that they are responsible for protecting public health by ensuring safety, right, of our nation's food supply. Well, FDA, if your job is to ensure safety of our food supply, then the first conversation that my guests and I are going to have today is how much pus is in milk. So while we're worried about whether or not almond nuts have nipples, we need to be having a conversation about whether or not the milk that our children eat, milk money is different, is infected with pus, or if we need to have concerns over whether the FDA works for us or whether they work for them. So please help me welcome none other than my guest. You guys know what today is. Today is He Said, She Said. We do this once every month, and we're in a new month. So please help me welcome from backstage, none other than attorney Derek Wright. Good morning, Leon Booker. Welcome to the show. Derek, are you with us, and can you hear me?
I'm here, and I can hear you clear.
Okay, so thank you for joining this conversation. And you and I have been having kind of these really just eye-opening conversations about the foods that we eat and how this all came about. And so there's been this debate about whether there's pus in milk, right? And so on one side, you have the dairy people who are saying there's not pus in milk. It's just this compound that's really white blood cells, right?
Mm-hmm.
But white blood cells are an indication that an infection is being fought, but the USDA allows more white blood cells in our milk than any other country. Talk to me about what you learned about what's in our milk.
Well, actually, it's interesting because you actually had us navigate away from milk a while ago, and even then, I remember we started to dibble and dabble in this, but now you can see in 1 cup of milk, there's like 50 million pus cells in just 1 cup. In other words, in lots of things, but milk is, I guess, the glaring example of where you have stuff in it that you wouldn't think. And as we started looking at it, remember, I started seeing photographs of images and says, you wouldn't drink the milk of a dog, a rat, a squirrel. Why would you, drink the milk of a cow instead of your own mom?
Well, I think you do that because it's been marketed as healthy. It's been marketed as readily available for us. It's got the fat, it's got the nutrients. You got the milk mustache commercials, you have all these ad campaigns. But then you have here something I looked at and I said, okay, PETA is writing a letter, and you all know who PETA is, right?
Mm-hmm.
PETA has written a letter to the FDA saying that if milk has to be healthy, then dairy milk does not meet the definition of milk. So while they're spending all this time, FDA, fighting about whether you can call almond milk milk or whether you can call cashew milk milk, why aren't we paying attention to this? Why are we paying attention to the fact that I was watching a study on this, and they're milking those cows almost 24/7 like machines, which leads to blood and pus because they have a disease called mastitis, right, in the milk. But they clean it out, y'all. So it's nothing to worry about, because as long as only a little bit, like a drop, to me, a drop of pus in the milk is too much. But that's just me. But to the Food and Drug Administration, Derek, it's not too much. Did you know that Canada only allows like a certain amount of white blood cells, because some white blood cells are healthy to a certain extent, but once they get beyond a certain extent, there's something going on, like with that milk, right?
But that's consistent with, aren't there other things that we really, a lot of countries won't let us export,
That's
whether milk, meat, or other things.
exactly. And that takes us to our next subject, because Canada is actually one of those countries. We allow 750,000 milliliters of these white blood cell type pus things in our milk. Their maximum is like between 250,000 to 400,000. So when the US imports milk to Canada, it has to meet their standards. So they're sending the best stuff away when they're allowed to import it and giving us the nasty of the nasty. So, that's that. Y'all need to get some more people on, because we're going to talk about some more stuff. But listen to this. So, Derek, you mentioned other things that we have been talking about. So let's go ahead and go to some of those other things. I'm going to switch over to this because, guys, we are staying woke today. Here's what I want you guys to see next. So we talked about how much pus there is in milk. I encourage all of you guys to go to nutritionfacts.org and read the article for yourself, okay? Here's the next thing we got to talk about. Let's talk about the chickens, right? And I hope you guys can see this, because as of August of 2020, there is a new USDA ruling that allows for chicken to be produced from diseased birds. Diseased birds. What this article is saying is that when they kind of enacted the Defense Production Act in April during the pandemic, that it had some impact on the food supply chain. They rolled back safety measures, Derek, involving inspecting plants, involving how they label meat, involving farm pollution, in order to make sure we did not have meat shortages. As a direct result of that, inspectors are no longer required to examine the first 300 birds of any flock for signs of disease. But processors are going to be allowed to simply, let me highlight it, cut off the tumors and process the rest of the bird, even birds that have a cancer-like disease. Derek.
Once again, I point to you. You stopped eating chicken a long time ago. To me, it's par for the course, because this same, we'll say, powers that be when it comes to food. What is it? 95% of most chicken have some fecal matter in it.
Oh, yeah.
88% of most of your pork chops.
Wait, no, stop. You're talking about the chickens on the farm.
Well, I'm talking about the chickens when we go get some chicken and we're trying to just get
You're
down.
talking about it's packaged at the grocery store.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the chicken that we're buying, taking home, fixing, eating, the whole works. We're talking about, what, 95%, you'll find some level of fecal matter in it. And hey, the pork chops are in the 80s, I think 88%, ground beef about 90%. So,
but you know that's allowable under our.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The same entities that are allowing for the disease to be cut out and use the rest have been consistently allowing whether pus in milk or fecal matter in your meat, all that kind of stuff. That's par for the course. It's going to come down to, and what we need to start talking about is the money. If you follow the money, you'll understand why these things are the way they are, and why, if you really start looking at it, you probably don't want to eat this stuff.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, and you're going to have Derek's going to give us a long conversation when we get to a couple of these next topics, and this is one of them. It was just the 4th of July, and I'm sure many of my friends, like myself, we enjoyed an American favorite pastime. We call it the hot dog, right? So we had the hot dog. But of course, while we're doing this research and we're learning, what are the different laws regarding our foods, there's so much, guys, that we do not understand. And so we need to pay attention to what hot dogs are really made of, right? And so one of the things that goes in hot dogs is this thing called trimmings, right? It's a purposely vague word because everyone's like, oh, trimmings, what does that mean? Well, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN, this is what trimmings are. It is the raw meat and materials used for pre-cooked, cooked products that are lower grade muscle trimmings, fatty tissues, head meat, animal feet, animal skin, blood, liver, and other edible slaughter by products. That's what's in your hot dogs. And for those of you who are super interested, pay attention to the top so you can see how hot dogs are made.
Called trimmings, pieces of meat left over from cutting steaks or pork chops. The trimmings are ground the same way butchers chop up hamburger meat, by pushing the cuts through grated metal plates. Processed chicken trimmings are added to the ground meat, followed by food starch, salt, and other flavorings. These flavorings vary depending on where the hot dogs are to be sold, because people in different regions have different tastes. Water is sprayed into the mix, and everything is blended together in a big vat. Corn syrup adds a dash of sweetness. The addition of even more water helps to disperse the ingredients and make the hot dogs juicier. Another machine then purees the meat batter into a fine emulsion and vacuums out any air.
Derek, I was done on that
Long
part.
rolls of cellulose tubing are loaded into the
So we're going to stop that because I was done at that part right there.
You know, I told my brother Frank, he had some hot dogs on the green egg at the house, and they were the best hot dogs I'd ever tasted. And then I looked at that and was reminded just what a hot dog is. And
Trimming.
it is awakening, we'll just say the least.
So here's the thing. And so I'm thinking just about the fact that we have a government out there that's sent to protect us, right? But these
Yep.
are the things that the law allows to be put into your food. No one's telling you what to eat or what not to eat. We're telling you to be aware. Okay? Just be aware of what's in your food. Be aware of what's allowed, what the law says can or cannot eat. Okay? Derek, go ahead.
I want to emphasize, we are not disparaging or telling you not to eat things. You know why? Because we don't want to be labeled as terrorists. There are laws on the books in the federal government that if you do anything that affects, let me go ahead and read you the code section. We're not animal enterprise terrorists. 18 USC 43, because if we somehow damage someone that is in the animal production industry to the point of 1 to 10,000, we could be charged with misdemeanors. If we cause them financial loss exceeding 10,000, let's say we get a city to stop buying their stuff, we're charged with a felony and could get almost 10 years in prison. And if we really are successful at getting people to stop, 100,000 economic loss can get you 20 years. Now, of course, violence is never right. So, violence will get you up to life. But bottom line, you do something that affects the animal production industry, you can get 20 years fed time. So, we are not terrorists. We're just saying, open your eyes.
What was that law called again?
The Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act.
And this law, if I'm not mistaken, was put into place to protect animal producers from people taking pictures and letting the public know what really goes on in some of these plants. Is that how this happened?
So let's say you want to show that pigs are dying, being thrown into a big bucket, a big container, and then being taken back and fed to the other pigs after, they've been, had enough flies and nasty, because that does happen. But let's say you want to go take pictures to get your proof, and you're trying to expose what's going on, for example, in North Carolina, or you're trying to expose how all the 10 million pigs in North Carolina, they have their feces, which comes to about 100 million pounds a year, that goes through the grates into the ponds, and then they spray the water in the air. Now, let's say you're trying to
water in the air. What's in the water?
The feces, the feces, the funk. We'll call it the bacon product. Yes, this is where your bacon's coming from. And I tell you, all my life, I've loved me some bacon. But if you start looking at the industry, and you can see where pigs eating pigs that are nowhere kind of healthy, and then how they're treating the communities that are near these pig farms, it's going to upset you, both physically and mentally, to see how this stuff works.
And that's interesting, because what you're talking about right now has to do a lot with environmental racism, a topic that is on my checklist of things that we need to discuss, but we haven't jumped into yet, right? And so all we're saying is pay attention to who's producing your food. Pay attention, because the laws are not designed to protect you when it comes to that, because at the end of the day, it is a billion dollar business. And I gotta point out a comment by Pauline Davis. She talks about the fact that food is the cause of many illnesses. So is the production of food the cause of many illnesses. When you're talking about neighborhoods, that it's been proven that these farms are predominantly in disadvantaged neighborhoods, right? The stench, people have asthma, people have cancer, the stuff is seeping into the ground, and they're constantly having to deal with feces and things like that. I want you guys to look it up. In North Carolina, they've been having these major fish kill events happen. And they're saying, oh, it's because there's too much nutrition in the water. But another marine biologist said the water's being fertilized by stuff being put in the water. Y'all figure out what that means. Tens of thousands of fish washing up on shore.
But in Bern, even as a bigger issue, remember, animal production is the number one contributor to greenhouse gas. You know how we grew up talking about all the cars and the traffic and all that and the greenhouse gas effect. No, animal production exceeds all of that. So next time you look at all the cars, buses, transportation, remember, animal production does worse to the environment. You're cutting down all the trees and rainforest, and all these animals are consuming all the fresh water, or not all, but the largest consumers of the fresh water supply. So when you hear about droughts and stuff like that, remember, this is all going into the animal production industry, and that is the second largest employer, that industry, in the United States, which again is bringing us, it's all going to lead back to the money. The people that are supposed to protect us are driven by money. Animal production, their techniques, why they're allowed to do what they do. So much so that you remember we discovered the cheeseburger bill.
Oh yeah, the cheeseburger law. Let's talk about that. So you would think that the cheeseburger law has to do, a good question, Leon. You would think that the cheeseburger law would be something that would protect us, because most of us don't know what's in our meat. We don't know what the health impacts are. And there was all this false advertising going on. But the cheeseburger law wasn't designed for us. And in fact, you have the real name of that law. It has something to do with the personal responsibility.
Yep, Personal Responsibility and Food Consumption Act. So that all of us are eating all these Big Macs and triple cheeseburgers and all the bacon and ribs and everything we want to eat, we can't ever go back and say, wait a second, y'all knew there was fecal matter in this stuff. Y'all knew you were using chickens that had disease cut out of them. Y'all knew these practices and procedures you were using, similar to, remember the whole cigarette tobacco blow up and how they all got sued for what they were pushing out and what they were hiding. Well, the cheeseburger bill is designed specifically to make sure that we cannot go sue the animal production companies, the food manufacturers. You can't ever go and say, damn it, McDonald's, your fries gave me diabetes, because the cheeseburger bill says it's on you. You should have known better, and you control what you eat.
Because they're not hiding the information. Just like we were able to find the information, they're not hiding it. But we're paying attention to all of the ads on television, and we're paying attention to this diet and that diet and not the consequences. And we're watching the fact that, oh, my friend's on paleo, they lost 30 pounds. It must be healthy for you. Until they're looking at all these people, yeah, they're going to lose the weight. But unfortunately, their arteries are being clogged at the same time, and the cholesterol levels are going up. So it is important that each of us pay attention. It's funny that Mwali was on the show, and what did he talk about? Buying the land. Michelle was on the show, and what did she talk about? Buying the land and growing your own food and making sure that you have some control over what's coming into your body. So that responsibility act, Derek, we do have to take responsibility. And that's why we put this knowledge out there. But the sad part is they get to market it.
Well, but there's a whole nother level. Can I add the other layer?
Yes.
So the food folks are making the money. They're letting us eat all the bad stuff we want to eat, all the bacon, all the ice cream, all the stuff we want to do. And then what happens? We end up diabetic. We end up with health issues. And now that's a whole nother level of money, because remember, 1 out of every 4 healthcare cost dollars is treating diabetes. And let me get the exact number, $237 billion a year in medical money being made. And layer on top of that, the pharmaceutical companies, because the entire system is, let's give you this junk, get you sick, and now let's maintain what's going on with you, maintain the diabetes, maintain the illnesses, so you have to continue to take the drugs instead of prevention of the diabetes, prevention of the illnesses, prevention of having to take the pharmaceutical products. So you have 3 or 4 layers of money, which is why, and we were talking about this yesterday, if you can control the message, control the narrative, you can control the behavior. And when you get the behavior out of a group that you want to get, you can make money on them, even at the expense of their lives. And that's what we see in so many levels, whether food, other stuff. But in the food industry, guess who the sponsors are? Are you going to get into that, Mern?
Well, I know you got court in 4 minutes, so we won't get too far into that one. But what I'm going to do is tell everybody, we suggest that you watch What the Health and do the research for yourself. DYOR, do your own research. Find out who's funding the American Diabetes Association. Find out who's funding the American Heart Association. Find out who's funding the American Cancer Society. Find out what it is they're recommending you do on your website that goes completely against prevention. So pay attention and follow the money. So Derek, I'm gonna let you have a closing thought. I know you got to get to court, and our segment is actually over because it's 30 minutes, but of course we got to give a giveaway. I already know what that number is, but I have not selected an amount to give today, Derek. What do you think we should give today?
I tell you what, let's go so that people remember this day for a variety of reasons. $357.
Oh, wow. We're giving away $357. Not we. You guys can thank attorney Derek Wright and the law firm of Derek Wright for that $357 gift y'all get today. Unfiltered, appreciate y'all. I don't know where that number came from, but we're going to go with that. but I already do know what the winning number is. So you guys know how we do. I am going to go ahead, you guys, especially for you guys who are new. We give away cash every single week on Unfiltered. And I'm going to play like a short music tune deal here. And you're going to have about 60 seconds to go ahead and put a number between 1 and 100 in the chat box. You have to be active in the chat. Put a number between 1 and 100 in the chat box. So here is your first 30 seconds. All right, we only gave them 30 seconds, Derek, so we're gonna give them a few more seconds to put that number up. You give me your closing thoughts while they're finalizing that, and then I will announce the winner.
Well, anyone that knows me knows that I love my bacon. I love my ribs, but I got to tell you, I'm putting it down. I love being alive and being healthy and not being sick and feeling better. So plant-based diets, I have no economic reason. I have simply a physical, mental reason to say, you know what, let's live life well. And honestly, yeah, you can do stuff in moderation, but most diets don't talk about moderation. Most stuff says, hey, make that lifestyle change. Get off a lot of that stuff that's just not good for you. And you'd be surprised just how much better you feel. So join me, because today is day one. I have no more bacon. I'm off the hog. No more swine. And
okay, well, you guys just heard that, and this is recorded.
Yes, it is.
Forever in history, right?
Day one begins today.
All right, well, I'll join you in that one. Okay, so we actually do have a winner who did the exact number. You guys, today is episode number 17, and it is July the 7th. That's 7, 7, and 7. 7 times 3 is 21. Our winner for today is Gifty Myers, who guessed 21 on the head. What did you say the number was again that you're giving away?
357.
All right. Well, Gifty, you just received $357. So congratulations to you, Gifty. You guys, thank you, everyone who showed up today. Thank you for another wonderful episode of He Said, She Said, Derek. And you guys, you know how we do it. Until next time, be blessed and stay woke. See you guys next time.
It's bigger than me. It's bigger than me. It's bigger.